Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we'll bring you day 279 of Russian invasion into Ukraine, with Olexiy Arestovych, advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine, Lieutenant Colonel, and Mark Feygin, Russian opposition politician. Enjoy. Dear friends, glad to see you all here on Feygin Live. It is Tuesday, November 29th, 4 minutes past 10 in Kiev, 4 minutes past 11 in Moscow. As always, with Olexiy Arestovich, day 279. Good evening. We have 120,000 watching us live. Over 20-something thousand click the like button. Apologies for running a few minutes late. We often have to resolve some technical issues quickly on the go, so that's what happens. And please subscribe, please continue sharing links to that stream. Feygin Live is only missing about 2,000 to achieve 2 million viewers, and they probably could be watching us live, and they're not subscribing. Of course, subscribe to Olexiy Arestovich as well, and to the Privateer Station, the ones that are bringing that to you in English. Okay, let's get to the news of the day. Let's take a look at the map. Oh, the map. Okay, the usual, Kherson. In Kherson, it is about the same. They are doing artillery attacks on us. We are countering and attacking them. Except for we are better and more precise. During the last 24 hours, I know 2 very good hits with a lot of losses on their side. Perhaps there were more, but these are the ones that became publicly known. So, near Ugledar, we continue to strengthen our position. They lost their attempts to continue pushing the front, and if you noticed, Ugledar completely disappeared from their news channels, so we're good there. Here, same thing on the right, nothing changed yet. Avdiivka is still resisting. If you go closer to Gorlovka, this is the middle part of this map. A little to the south of Gorlovka, you can see red protrusion pushing to the left. Our enemies are trying to do their little offensive campaign. You can see above Gorlovka and below Gorlovka, there are 2 attempts to keep pushing. So below Gorlovka, they're trying to cross the road to try to intercept that communication or rocket line. They essentially want to break further to Vodinoye, to Severnaya, and then the same thing to break to Krasnogorovka and hopefully maybe surround Avdiivka. This is the lower of protrusions. And I don't think they will succeed. Now, to the north of Gorlovka, that part is very familiar for me. I've spent quite a few days and weeks over there. In Kurdyumovka and Alexandrovka, they're trying to surround Bakhmut from the south. So Bakhmut is at the very top of this map, what you see, and the lower set of 3 arrows underneath it is attempt to push further to the south of Bakhmut. They will not achieve anything there. And to the north of Bakhmut, Solidar, they're not really touching that. There are some fights generally in that vicinity, but main attempt is still near Bakhmut. They'll fail. They're playing the same moves and same games over and over again. Small pincer attempt with a bigger pincer attempt, and that can always be read, and we're pretty well fortified there. Of course, near Lysychansk and Severodonetsk there are a couple attempts, but up north from Svatova to Kremenaya, some evil tongues are saying that from Svatova to Kremenaya, so the most of the top portion of this map that you see, Ukrainian army is advancing. Don't know, we have not confirmed that officially, I'm just commenting Russian posts at this point, and generally all this kind of fighting can be classified as tactical local operations. It is not easy for our troops in some parts of the front, like near Bakhmut. Russians aggregated over 9 times prevailing artillery near Bakhmut, and we continue to resist, so it may seem pretty rough locally at the point. Also, I need to send special kudos to our tank specialists near Bakhmut. Very often it is our tanks that are countering Russian artillery, and they're doing their fire from closed positions without even seeing their target. So they're very great professionals there. They can reach, and actually they've been pretty successful in hitting a lot of Russian targets, even from obscured positions when they do not have direct visibility on them. I want to sing a note to them today and say that the defense of Bakhmut is relying to a great degree on our tankers there, who do fight twofold. They fight in tanks engagements, and they also do counter Russian artillery as mobile artillery units. These are not people. These are, I say, they're gods of war there. One can take hat looking at what they achieve and how they fight there. So, with a deep respect, thank you guys. Of course, they keep shelling us across the border, Sumy, Chernigov, Kharkov, and in the south, Nikopol, Zaporozhye, Kherson, they get attacked with artillery. Civilians are dying in all these places. They also brought several airplanes, several jets. They've been in the air for real. They've been there for several hours. And we don't know, maybe they could have been training missions, or it could have been intel missions trying to figure where our air defense systems are located. And could have been training and also checking our air defense systems. There was Il-22. These are machines that can do aerial intel and coordinate activity of the troops on the ground. So probably they were trying to gather some intel, we suspect. They're trying to understand where our positions are for counter-missile defense, because getting 90% out of their package of 70 shot down is very unsatisfactory. So could be that. Il-22 is the airplane that is designed for coordination and intel. Okay, so let's get to the next topic here. How critical is the situation in Bakhmut, Mariinka, that area, Solidar? That's where it seems that Russian troops are most active. Am I correct, presuming that they're still trying to push to the borders of Donetsk region? This is a very removed, very far out operative goal for them. To realize that, I don't even see perspectives for them, but they're trying. And one needs to understand the price they're paying for these attempts. So tell us more about the price again. Huge. Just huge. It is, besides putting their morale down, they're also wasting their troops stupidly attacking the same positions. There are already several layers of their bodies on these roads and forests and places where they continue their attacks. But it's good for us. They're wasting their limited resources against our fortified positions, and they'll never reach their operational goals with that strategy. Okay, got it. Other posts are saying that Ukraine is shelling Kursk region, Sujansk part, and there are a lot of notes there that Kursk is hurting, that, they're screaming in their chats. No, we are not shooting in the territory of Russian Federation. If Kursk People's Republic started their inner fighting with Belgorod People's Republic, then we, of course, express our sadness, and we're eager to provide moral support to one side or another, or whoever needs that between these two. Okay, got it. So these other missile strikes that were expected, that were recently on the radar, that were announced that they may have happened, we don't see them. Oh yeah, they were ready to attack us today, but for some reason they haven't. So what do you think would be the reason? I don't know. Maybe a training mission, maybe just training flight, a mix of training and intel. Because, as I said, it's very expensive and very ineffective when they send 70, 80 missiles and most of them get shot down. So they're trying probably to open the system of our anti-missile defense, anti-air defense, and try to avoid that. And I just got a note that Kharkov is getting attacked again, as 300, as 400, something like that. Either a city or somewhere near the city. Also in Bucharest, there is a NATO summit ongoing, and there are several very particular statements being made there. Stoltenberg made a statement that Ukraine membership in NATO is very appropriate. We just need to wait till the end of this war. And the main goal of NATO is to provide weapons to Ukraine, and so on and so on. So, any comments on that? There is a lot of good things said. Tell us, it's better if you go over that. There was a number of statements, I have it. Let me read it. Okay, so, yeah, got it. Russian aggression onto the energy infrastructure of Ukraine creates inhumane conditions for Ukrainian citizens. We remain ardent in our support to Ukraine and will never acknowledge Russian annexation. We'll never support that, and we are open to increase our support to Ukraine. That's in the direction of those who said the West is dwindling their support. So we will continue supporting Ukraine air defenses to prevent aerial and missile attacks. So problem number one is outlined. We also care about security of Sweden and Finland when they're joining NATO. That's important, and we keep the door open for Ukraine after this conflict is complete with. So this sounds like mantra, but it's not. It's actually for a month, maybe more than a month before this summit, there was a message being flown around that the West is tired of Ukraine, that they're getting ready to give up on Ukraine, that NATO is divided about that. Well, here is your joint opinion of NATO, voiced by the head of NATO. Ukraine can join NATO at the end of the war. Support of Ukraine is ardent. Support of Sweden and Finland is guaranteed as well. And they will never acknowledge illegal annexations. And Russia is making a chain of military crimes. So all the marks are given, all the perspectives are highlighted, and life is good for us and very sad for those who are fighting with us, both now and in the future perspective. So you think with all this regularity, that statement means more? Well, this is not a regular one. They're actually maybe picking the phrases that are somewhat standard for these statements, but if you look in the context of what are they addressing, this is not a standard statement. And if you look at the bigger picture about support of Ukraine, about continuing that, remember how much people were talking about blackmailing of Ukraine government and pushing them to sit down and negotiate with Putin's regime. That had been peddled around for so long. There is not a notion about the negotiation. By the way, also Steinmeier went today and said that any ceasefire is giving Russia a chance to respite, is giving Russia a chance to take a rest from this war. So, no, we are giving Russia a chance to waste their resources at the Ukraine. And then again, negotiation would be what? Minsk III agreements that basically normalize your villainy and everything you've done and all the people you killed and territories you captured? No. Go take a hike. So here's the evolution of Steinmeier, who initially was the proponent of a negotiation and some support of Europe to conduct negotiations with Ukraine and Russia. And he graduated into that, into giving an answer. This is their answer to a month and a half notes about the need for debates, the need for discussions, the need to cease fire on the Ukrainian front. Here's a collective answer. They evolved. There is no word negotiations. Negotiations is not even a subject. The main topic is support of Ukraine on the key areas, from tactical and military equipment for certain needs on the battlefront, and ending with strategic statements about the overall defense of Ukraine infrastructure and meta-strategic level of joining Ukraine, NATO, and Georgia as well in perspective. Okay, good. By the way, note, I can throw another context here. Another main component of that summit was resisting the growth of possible threat of China. And that was part of addressing that. That statement was part of that bigger topic. So, speaking about them in agreement with China and all, they're not in agreement with Russia or anything, or China about giving Ukraine to the attackers. No, it is not happening, and Ukraine is not being given up upon, and NATO will expand to Ukraine as well. And here's another context for Putin, right? NATO needs to be back to the border of 97, and as the result, Ukraine will join NATO. This is a masterstroke of politics to achieve an exact opposite of what you embarked to achieve, and at a cost of burying 100,000 of your own. You have to be Putin. You have to be a strategic master, a strategic politician, right? Okay, 310 are watching us live already. Legal orgs in the US are reviewing probability of acknowledging or recognizing Wagner Group as a terrorist organization. So Department of State and other agencies in the US are gathering more data about Wagner and its sister structures. Yeah, you don't even need to go too far. They already announced the monetary prize for the location of Prigozhin. So, for data leading to his arrest. So, by the way, yeah, if you're fighting in Wagner, your roads outside of Russia may become a bit thorny. You can be captured and transferred to the United States for criminal investigation and prosecution. So, I need to make another announcement. Sasha, what's his last name? Sasha Kurare. There'll be a stream with a good source. We'll talk about, we wanted to call that stream Milk Son of Sasha Kurare, the guy who came up with the accusation of Prigozhin and his lowest prison rank. So we'll talk about that. I wanted to say another dirty joke here, but I'll bite my tongue for now. So Wagner, it's been known for a while, not only in Ukraine. It's Africa, it's Libya, it's Mozambique, it's Syria. They do have a long chain of crimes against humanity. A lot of informally confirmed, formally confirmed. So I think they will be recognized as a terrorist group. I think that's on horizon. Okay, good. Let's take a look at Belarus. And of course, it's been a present subject in most of our streams. So anyway, yeah, I guess we'll have to stick with Belarus and talk about them till the end of this war as well. Maria Kolesnikova was transferred from prison in Gomel to medical establishment for urgent surgery, and she is in an ICU. So McKay recently died. Kolesnikova is undergoing something in her life, and I don't know if she's in the context of, it's prison, things can happen, but still. So on the backstage, on the backlight of all that, Lukashenko is going to Moscow. Putin called him to come to Moscow. Of course, Putin cannot come to Minsk because technically it's reachable for Ukraine missiles, and then there could be a statement, oh, no, that was not our missile, right? So Lukashenko is flying to Moscow, and it appears that they are pressing him to join this operation. I don't see any other reason for him to go there besides his presence, even on the CSTO, that Common Treaty Security Organization, even there they push that. But the thing is, they can continue pushing him. You can want to Ukraine to be attacked by Belarus as well. You can press Lukashenko to do that. But is Belarus ready? Is Belarus ready to come and attack? I don't think so. So my question is, do you think if Lukashenko flies to Moscow, do you think they'll end him there? Well, his position is difficult. He is like Alexander Nevsky of our times. On one hand, he is a named brother of Sartak, the son of Bati, and now he's coming, as if back in the day, right, to Mongolian Empire. So he's flying to Moscow for about the same reasons, and he kind of wants to walk between the fires, but refuses to take their pagan traditions upon himself. So his life is difficult. You need to play along, but you never know what kind of tea will you get, and if it'll be laced with anything. So we'll see if he was evading. Will he eventually evade everything and come out alive, or if things will become more difficult? Mark, trust me, everybody is listening to us. I have intel that many people are listening. So if he is listening, then just tell him, don't go. You may not come back. Take a read from a doctor. Talk about some rheumatism attack, or not a single medical commission can prove that. So you can just bring that as a reason for not coming. So you think that without Lukashenko, the situation when Belarus troops can be sent over to the Ukrainian front cannot happen. Well, that situation can happen, and they can give an order to even move to the border to proceed with offensive. But I have questions about their battle readiness to even move to the border. So, what do you mean? Well, their battle worthiness is very low. And it's not only about motivation, it's also about material readiness, about their repairs, supplies, about their vehicles and things they have in their possession. I'm not even talking about morale and desire to fulfill this order. So I'm not ready to discuss that seriously. I can discuss it with a smile, but no, I don't see that as a serious eventuality. So 330-something thousands are watching us. Please continue sharing the stream and subscribing. We know that about 30% of you are watching without subscription. We understand that for the most part it's probably Russian audience and maybe occupied territories of Ukraine. I understand that there is a risk. Probably don't subscribe if you are on the occupied territory, because these guys can check your phone indeed. But for the Russians, you can subscribe. It's more difficult to check if you have or have not, especially if you use VPN. And look, our favorite dwarf from Russia, Medvedev, has reacted to NATO statements. So it does appear that he is getting some electricity treatment, probably from their year, because you can sense this energy coming out of him and his statements about NATO. He's writing that United States is not going to supply Patriot systems to Ukraine yet. We understand they're discussing it, but the moment they supply these systems to Ukraine, they will become a legally acceptable target for Russian military. And we don't need NATO at our borders. NATO doesn't need to grow. NATO needs to repent and be disbanded as a criminal organization. What else is he saying? I think he's adding more time to his jail term. So he basically keeps biting NATO. I think he's just being sent out to the mic. Hey, you go talk NATO down. And I think one of the underlying themes here is that they are trying to stop Western allies from transferring Patriot systems to Ukraine. And even the head of Poland already said that they cannot yet deliver Patriot systems because they need them for themselves. They don't have enough. So, comments about this, Olexiy? What is... the whole statement is absurd. The whole statement about Patriot systems becoming targets for Russians. What else? All the other equipment is not a legit target. They've been hitting us everywhere, even civilian targets, so that's absurd. Or they're presuming that Patriot systems will have American-trained personnel running them. Well, I don't think that's how it may happen, but yeah, they can try. Another thing, Patriot is not an easy target. Neither the missile that is intercepting whatever is flying above, nor the system itself. So I don't think we can realistically or seriously discuss these statements. The only way we are discussing it because he's one of the ex-presidents of Russia, and second is because he's funny. His statements are ridiculously funny sometimes, and I understand that he's being sent out to address certain media aspects. So he's that figure. Who can come out and just spill out all that deep resentment and emotional charge that others cannot. And he's being liked for that. He's being valued for that because he's the man voicing the collective pain. And that figure which does that often has a certain value. He's basically channeling that feeling, canalizing, so like, channeling like, sort of, like sewers, they also channel certain streams, exactly. And he could have been a joker, right? But the problem is that there are different kinds of jokers. There are jokers that are essentially serving security of the country and the czar that they serve, and the others are completely useless. So in this case, Dmitry, Dimon, we can't even, he's not a higher caliber figure. We'll bring this up because Moscow continues playing these games. Listen, I understand you don't like it. Hang on. They're trying to play the game to preclude supplies of strategic armaments, and they turn any opportunity on, including Medvedev the Joker. So how can they preclude that? They need to attack the convoys. Again, you need to find them. You need to hit them. That's not an easy task. And also, how many armaments have we received, and how many attempts have they tried to shoot the convoys that are bringing? How many strikes on convoys did you face, actually? On the convoys that are bringing us arms from the West, not a single one. By the way, they're also talking that they keep destroying your HIMARS. How many HIMARS you have? I'll say one more thing. Not too many people are aware of that, but since we are touching on that subject. When the missiles hit Poland, panic in Russian troops on the territory of Ukraine was so big that many of them were preparing to run. They seriously expected the possibility of NATO answer, and their communication channels were filled to the brim with panicky statements. They were packing their stuff, they were calling, yelling at each other, they were saying bye to their families. If NATO at that point would have just announced their full battle readiness, I'm quite sure a lot of them would have fled, probably all the way to Kamchatka. But so yeah, when we get to the real probability, real chance of fighting NATO, we know how ready they are. They're afraid to such a tremendous degree that they really surprised us. In the first hours after the missiles hit Poland, when it was not clear what happened there, it was very entertaining to eavesdrop on their conversations. So, what war with NATO? What hits of NATO convoys? Mark, they're not there. I can also tell you they have not destroyed a single HIMARS and they have not shot down a single missile. Well, you told us that it's difficult to shoot it, right? Well, yeah, but they keep telling daily on their briefings that they're shooting 15s of them. And just to reiterate, it's a very complex task, and it still has not been resolved by Russian military. There is not a single confirmation of a successful destruction of HIMARS missile. Okay, another thing, U.S. administration announced that they'll supply more monetary help to Ukraine, and Germany is sending another 50 million. How important is the monetary help in the current situation? Oh, it is very useful, it is very helpful. When they destroy energy systems, very often they're pretty unique elements that are not easily, readily available. So one needs to find money and bring that. We don't usually have a stockpile of some of these items, and the only way is to quickly purchase it and bring it. Or sometimes we need to request the production of that. Sometimes we can produce ourselves too, but yeah, so essentially it's like replacing the broken parts in any mechanism. That's very helpful. So another statement, this autumn every single large energy structure in Ukraine was hit, says the head of Ministry of Energy. And yeah, they indeed hit most of the targets, and we are repairing, we are fixing, or already have repaired and fixed a lot of them. And Ukrainian system, once again, was built to withstand a possible nuclear war with the West. So it will survive the hits of Russian missiles, one way or another. Another thing is that there is a competition going between the missile strikes and repair modules. Do you think it'll be the modules or the missiles that'll win this fight? According to some data, they have enough for maybe another dozen of hits, but that's about it. And after that, that's about it. And after that, they need to change their tactics, need to use some other weapons. And I think we can afford ourselves to do 10 rounds of repair. And there are different ones. There are, if they hit something really big, real serious, yeah, that may be more difficult repair, but middle and small size repairs, we are very well doing all that. So they cannot really put our energy system completely down to the knees. So, look, the head of Latvia also made a statement suggesting that Ukraine should be hitting Russian airports from where their strategic bombers are taking flight. Moscow is already being hysterical about that. What's that city of the cosmonauts? Korolev near Moscow? No, Kaluga, that's another one. Remember, there was an airport that a couple months ago, some of the strategic bombers started exploding in one of those. So, oh yeah, that was the self-destruction, right? Kursk and Belgorod regions are fighting. Oh, that case was the case of smoking of technicians in the wrong place. So, for the most part, what's happening there is people smoke in wrong places. But Minister of Foreign Affairs of Latvia is a very brave person. I'm applauding him for this statement. But I have a delicate question. What should we use to hit those airports? Our allies have not given us missiles that can fly for 1,000 kilometers. And we're just being shy, right? No, this is almost like Medvedev's statement. That statement that will destroy every of the Patriot and missile defense systems in Ukraine. It would be nice to have capability to support that statement. It's always good to have material capability to support your statements. I'd rather even have material capabilities without the statements. But yeah, that's still a problem. Well, you know how it is in politics. Before it can materialize, it needs to be spoken out. Words are important. Yeah, I remember. I hope God finds ways to do that, because I remember they were screaming about patriots not even being given to Eastern EU countries and NATO allies, NATO countries. So now we are discussing when they'll come here. So this is the way I look at that. It is still a war to victory. It is still a war to Ukraine victory. So my point of view, why are we dragging it? If you want Ukraine to win, just supply everything. You don't want Ukraine to win, that you will have to supply these systems. Why are you pushing it further out for another 2 or 3 months? Might as well bring them a bit sooner, maybe a month sooner. But all these shenanigans around our support, unfortunately we do not have Reagans or Thatchers in the West. It could have been a little easier and faster. We have 361, almost 62,000 watching us live. 160,000 click the like button. Please continue sharing links to that stream, because in Ukraine they do not have electricity in many regions due to these missile attacks. So please give an opportunity for those who cannot watch us live to watch that later, to share that and with your friends whenever they come back online, so they can come and get the information, watch our stream. So please continue clicking the like button. That definitely helps, and sharing links. At the end, we've been live for 37 minutes. A little over that. Are you following the protests in China, the ones that are unfolding? A lot of cities actually are fighting now. This is mostly due to COVID restrictions. And it's amazing that they still continue with that. In Europe, everything is already taken down. There are occasional local concentrations of COVID cases, but people are getting treated, and there are no shutdowns, nothing like that anymore. And in China, they do go into lockdowns with many cities, and students are protesting. Beijing, Chengdu, Shanghai, many others. And there are notable undertones and invectives against Xi Jinping. So what do you think about that? Mark, I'm not an economist, but I think China has very huge economic issues, and they're probably related to their depletion of the modal development model. They've been crediting themselves trying to push it as far as they can, and now they are very reminiscent of a colossus standing on very tiny legs. And they're also facing a huge demographic pit. They're having a lot more elderly and a lot fewer new blood coming to the working system. And China is sort of one country with two systems, very rich and very prosperous southeast, and very poor north and northwest. So for a while they had a chance to just pour money on these issues and differences between regions, and now they're at about the brink of development of these regions and disparity between them. And one of the signs that things are not going right is re-election of Xi Jinping to the third term, because healthy system does not conserve. Healthy system does not conserve their leader and that status quo. The healthy systems go forward and continue with elections and continue adapting and moving. So I would say right now, with his re-election, they basically said we cannot do any better. Let's try to continue preserving it. We cannot find a solution right now. So that period happened before in China, then it was abandoned and they got rid of endless or three-term system. Now they're getting back to continuous leadership. So that means essentially is a crisis. It's a crisis of the upper management not being able to provide operative solutions. And each crisis causes certain vibrations and resistance, and this is one of them. So, you know also that Chinese powers are sending those yellow and red QR codes, anti-COVID codes. Yeah, it's like a digital prison camp, right? Exactly. So they figure out people who are protesting. They're sending these messages to their cell phones and telling them, you cannot leave the area, you need to go to the COVID camp. And they're using COVID schema to mask deprivation of people's rights. So they're using these tools to control rebellions and all. So they're trying to control people flow as you would control water flows. It's an attempt to control big masses of people in telemode. Also, Xi Jinping didn't have time to replace powers in regions, and there are representatives of the fraction that lost in their Politburo, so they may not be too giddy on quelling the protests. They'd rather start shaking the system. So there'll be more elections and changes, I think, if I'm correct, in January, February. So until then, China will be probably vibrating rather notably. And there'll be some issues and protests, and there are problems that they need to solve, and they don't have answers. So I think China will not be getting better with every year. They'll likely be getting worse. I'm not a big Chinese expert. I'm an external observer and commentator. You may want to talk to an expert, but I suspect it will only make situation more difficult in China. There'll be more issues internally, and there'll be more issues being produced outwardly as well. Because one of the ways to resolve internal conflicts is to run a small, victorious external war. This is a known problem with humanity that is not too vegetarian in this regard, and I think China is also facing a decade of changes and issues. One way or another, they'll be repeated, stronger and stronger each time. And it'll touch upon different things: social structures, political structures, economic structures, division, cities, villages, COVID cities, non-COVID cities. And also you put a layer of very faceless attempt to manage people of your country through digital cradle that's very reminiscent of digital prison camp. So even Chinese are rebelling against that. Chinese who are brought up in the Confucian tradition of rituals and hierarchies, they're rebelling. So it probably indicates that their situation is not good, is not prosperous, is not going well. And it's a difficult task to get Chinese people to rebel, but hey, they managed. So we'll continue watching these protests, right? Because they do have a much stronger probability to cause bigger ripples in the whole world. So, yeah, we'll pay attention to that. Also, Erdogan's operation against Kurds is not happening. I think he's just raising stakes and trading for some PowerPoints there. What's important to note there is that operation was destined to be conducted in the northern part of Syria, where Kurds are concentrated now, and it's an interesting situation, especially with Syria is trying to replace some of the Kurd patrols with their Syrian troops. So we've been live for about 44 minutes, actually a bit more than that. We're trying to keep the usual framework. Are we still doing it tomorrow, Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday is good. Okay, so we'll talk tomorrow about that. we'll touch upon the situation with Mikhail Saakashvili, which is pretty sad. We need to talk about it. There is some new information. We'll talk about that for sure, so come tomorrow, 10 p.m. Kiev. And do not forget to subscribe to Feigin Live and Olexiy Arestovich and Privateer Station, links in the description of the video. We also got a phone number of mother of that girl, whose son, newborn, died. Yeah, so she is the grandma of that child that died, right? Yeah, she's mother of mother, right? Her name is Tatiana. I have her phone number, Zaporozhye region, so we'll need to verify that. We always do before sending. We have means, and we will continue this effort. Our charity fund is getting refilled. I think we have 8,000 or 9,000, I checked yesterday, that we can give. So please continue sending us ideas, contacts for those people who are facing some really adverse situations. And of course, situations with children are top priority right now. So we would love to give more to everybody. We just a very modest project, so we don't have too much. But we're trying. And yes, dear friends, see you tomorrow. Olexiy, thank you so much for spending this time with us. See you tomorrow.